this week, we're doing a pretty specific topic, and we are talking about pivoting your career. And I know I got from Quinn, Melissa, Trisha, and Simone what your befores and afters are. If as we go through, we're going to be sharing some of those. It's really helpful context because you all have really different needs in this area, and I want to be able to use real examples. So we will be talking about that too. Okay, so first of all, lesson number 1 is we are going to go interactive for just a second. So, question to the audience. What is this?
Bricks.
Right?
Or chocolate. It could be chocolate as well.
That's hopeful. So they are bricks. And what do we use bricks for?
Build a house.
Building.
To hit people? No, I'm just kidding.
Could be a weapon. So I went in and Googled weird things that have been built with bricks, because normally it's a house, and apparently somebody has built a car, which I can't imagine how that works. And then I'm guessing it's an art piece. And then somebody's actually made furniture. There was a sofa that went with this. I was particularly impressed with the tufting on the back of the chair. But really, and I'm just gonna, this is my silly example of it. Really what I wanted to talk about, and in this pathway of pivoting your career or taking a very different direction or taking right turns, while I am a super fan of the right turn, as you all know from going through some of my previous sessions, I believe that actually, especially when you're coming to different milestones in your life, actually taking right turns and doing different things, because it's interesting and it's exciting. But you all know that I believe that it's the future you that people need to understand. And with somebody who's trying to pivot their career, everything that I talk about is true. What is an additional burden for you is you need to teach people that you are not a brick that builds a house. Because here's the truth for all of you. You already have a personal brand. You are already known for something. All of the people you've been talking to, whether they are customers or colleagues or vendors that you've been working with, immediately think 1 or 2 words about you. Similar to the way you guys went, this is a brick. We use bricks to build buildings, right? It's a really natural and easy thing to do, because as human beings, that's what we do with our brains. We actually put labels on things, because if we had to, like, imagine for a second, you had to get up every morning and just the process of going to the bathroom and brushing your teeth, as an example, what is laying down versus standing up? What is the floor? Why does the floor in my bedroom feel different from the floor of my bathroom? What is a toothbrush? You know, what are the different, like, why do I not brush my teeth with my, like, I could go on. Hairbrush, all of the crazy stuff. And that's literally how our brains work. So because you're on a pivot journey, you are going to have to help people to stop calling you a brick and start calling you whatever it is you want to start calling yourself. And so, only because you are easy on my screen, like I met Trish, God, when was that? Was that this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in
January.
January. It was in January. And while I know Trish has a background in sales, my immediate brick word for her is furniture rental, because she was representing Court Furniture at the time. And I had a complete moment about how fantastic their furniture was for conferences, because folks, not only did they have cup holders in their furniture, but it had chargers, and there was a little cubby thing under the chair to put your purse and your other stuff during the conference. I kind of lost my mind, and I was like, who knew these chairs existed? And so for me, I'm having to go, okay, Trish is no longer chair lady, of which I rave about. She is now whatever it is she wants to be, which I'm hoping we're going to find out on here. So it's that, like, if you think about anybody you meet, we tend to do that. Like, my guess is the word sequin might come to mind when you think about me and everything they do, because this is all part of the thing. Now, I hope that Potentialist and Fairy Godmother are the words that you hear. But these are the things that you have to work on really hard, because the thing that people are buying from you is the product of you. And because you are the product, it's that thinking brain that they're asking from you. And you're asking people not only to imagine that your thinking brain is brilliant, it is, by the way, but it also has labels that they are not used to. Plus, I'm about to tell you guys some really bad news that I learned this week. Well, actually, I think some of you were on the call the other week. I think it was the data point was pre-pandemic, it takes 150 applications to get a job. So you're gonna have to get through 149 no's, which breaks my heart in a big way. But it is surmountable and you can pivot. I think everybody has done that along the way. And I will also say, I think there was somebody who submitted on this that people around them are saying, oh, it's too late to pivot, you can never change your career. Absolute hogwash to that. If you Google who are people who created their careers at the age of 50 or above, the list is long and rather fantastic. And it is not just stuck with a bunch of dudes. I think the guy who invented the Dyson vacuums was an over 50. Colonel Sanders of the Finger Looking Good Chicken was certainly over 50. There are many, many people who have pivoted their careers. And that's actually, when I think about the modern world, why I'm excited about the future, because this is the pattern that has also existed for decades, is that the jobs that had existed yesterday are no longer going to exist, which means that there are going to be new jobs which need new ways of thinking and new ways of approaching things. And the only way those new jobs get created is if somebody thinks up what they are and then specifically figures out their value. It's almost like every single one of you is the CEO and founder of You Inc. Right? And so how do you think about, like, who is that and what is the product you're selling? Really pro tip on this, if you are a podcast listener and enjoy that format, I really recommend Startup School by Seth Godin. And I also, and I can't remember the other one. We'll send it in the follow-up notes. There's a second podcast that talks about...
Last week, you really recommended also Anderson Horowitz, a 16Z. Yeah, so the Andreessen Horowitz is How Do You Get Smart About It? And actually here, I will look it up because I actually recommended it literally to somebody yesterday. What I like about Seth Godin's Startup School is he really does, he talks about the idea of how do you take a product from idea all the way through to market, and really he and I are incredibly aligned on this concept of a service-oriented approach. How do you figure out who it is you're marketing to and how to market to them, how to be really authentic and really unique at the same time. Really thinking about, I can't find it. It's another one. It's one of the biggest accelerators in Silicon Valley has a program as well. Theirs is more about the process of building a startup. But I sit here and I say, like, think about yourself as a product and take yourself through Seth Godin's Startup School, so to speak. And every time he says product, replace it with yourself. Actually, and if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw this morning. There was a venture capitalist who tweeted about what he looked for in the key markers of success for a product. And I reshared it and said, replace product with human being, and you have the same metrics of success. And I think this is the path you should all be thinking about as you're thinking about pivoting your career, because the reality is you are bringing a new product to market. And when you're bringing a new product to market, you have to teach the market what that is. Now, is anybody in product marketing now? Anybody actually have a marketing background? Yeah. So a couple of you guys. So you all know that's actually quite a hard thing to do. But take everything that you understand. Thank you. Take everything that you understand about bringing a product to market in the technical space or whatever the products are and apply those same concepts, and you'll see all of the same ideas work across the board. So your goal is to reteach. So how do you, I'm actually going to take you through what I think are the basics of how you do this for yourself, and walk you through the toolkit. So hopefully you all have the toolkit with you, because I want to share some of the goodies behind the scenes on all of this. So first of all, excuse me, step one is what I talked about, market research. So before you go out and start selling your new product to anybody, the first thing any good product owner or marketer will tell you to do is there a market? Do people want what it is, and where are they looking for value? So this is why in the startup world, you'll hear about beta testers and people who are in a system prior to people getting charged for it or any of those sorts of things, excuse me, because they are looking for validation that some assumptions they have about what the product is, why it would be useful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, actually work. And this includes not only how does it work, but how are you messaging how it works? And I'll give you a really great example. I had a company a couple of years ago reach out because they had some new software that was there to help with project management and collaboration. And yes, I know we've now got Slack and Asana and Notion and a bunch of tools that are out there like that. But they had made something that they said was even better and asked me if I would be interested in beta testing. And I absolutely did. And it looked very slick. And it certainly had some of the base functionality. However, the messaging on why people should sign up and what was the value of the product, as I told them later, came across a little alpha dude. And I said, you know, if I'm an alpha guy who's a little competitive and always kind of trying to do one-upmanship, this language would totally resonate with me. And I said, the problem is I'm not that person. And to be quite honest with you, when I look at that language, it actually puts me off playing with your technology because you're really being a bit condescending. Now, whether they took my feedback about their language to heart or not, I do not know. But I gave them that feedback about that language. And when I think about what it is you are trying to do as people who are trying to teach other people what you are all about, really testing your language and making sure it's actually teaching your audience what you want them to teach, and you're not teaching them the way you think they should be taught is really important. So this market research step, I think, is critically important. And what I'm challenging you to do is to go out and find two people who you can interview in the role, or in a role that is either adjacent to or in something in the industry that you want. Now, I'm going to caveat this, that this is not a can you help me find a job interview. This is not a will you hire me and am I awesome interview. This is actually an interview about them. And I say that because often when you get a call from somebody saying, hey, can I have an informational interview with you about your role? There's kind of this underlying assumption that you're going to be asked to find a job for them or recommend them. And I always, especially when you're asking somebody to do something a little bit different, I always recommend being really clear up front about what it is you're trying to accomplish and what is it you want to know. And in this scenario, what you want to know is, what do they value in the role? And not why do they like the job, but if they were going to replace themselves or hire somebody else, or if they were looking for a colleague in the space, like what is it they are looking for? And if you can do more than 2 of these, even better, because the more research and information you get about what is actually valued in the role will be better. Now, I do recommend, if you can, finding somebody who's a hiring manager. And for those of you who are going for more senior and executive roles, that might mean you may need to interview board members about the role, because they're the ones who are hiring in the C-suite. For those of you that are not looking for C-suite roles, then that may not necessarily be a requirement, but really think about who hires for this role and then who's doing this role, which is why I'm saying minimum of 2 people to do this. If you can do more, even better. So then step 2, what kind of questions could you ask? And you'll notice these are all about them questions rather than about you questions. And I really challenge you, this is informational gathering. You are going to want to say, oh my God, I can do that. Or I've done something like that as you go through the exercise. What I really recommend you do, because you're going to have to keep your mouth shut, is take your piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, put their answers to and you've seen that, I think, on page 4 of the document. What are the answers to their questions? If something resonates with you that validates, put it down the other side of the page just as a reminder to yourself, because this conversation is about them. So some of my favorite conversations is, if you were looking to add another you. Now, I don't actually say you have to replace yourself or something like that, because sometimes people can spin out and get a little nervous about that sort of conversation. But if you were looking to add another you to the team, what skills and abilities would you be looking for? And you'll notice I said skills and abilities, which means not only what is the criteria for your past, so your experience, but also the criteria for the future. One of my favorite questions, as you all know, is like, what kind of problems does somebody need to be, like, what kind of problems are you really great at solving? You can switch that around and say, like, what kind of problems does somebody need to be really great at solving? Second question is one of my favorites too. They're all my favorites, that's why I put them on here, is what did you learn in a previous role that helped you, that you apply in your current role? What you're asking here is, how did you pivot, without saying, how did you pivot? Because a lot of people haven't pivoted to get into their role, but I guarantee you, everybody has learned something in a past role that can apply here. And the language they are going to be giving you is how to describe something that was something that didn't fit in the past to where it can fit in the future. Third question, have you ever seen a non-traditional candidate hired for this type of role? This is a really critical question to get answered, because if they've never done it before, your mountain's a little bit higher, and yes, there could be an opportunity. So a really great example I actually had just the other day, I was talking to a gentleman who was in the oil and gas pipeline business. Super fascinating business as I talked to him. And we were talking about his next opportunity and how he was a really outside of the box thinker, different way of approaching his work, really different from all of the characters that were around him. And I asked him in the process of our coaching call whether the company had ever hired somebody into the role that he wanted that looked like him or sounded like him. And he took a beat and he said, no, they haven't. And I said, so really the challenge here is you have to get over that obstacle first to even be part of the consideration set in that he's the right candidate. And I said, because they've got decades of experience in hiring people that look a certain way and sound a certain way. And now they're looking for somebody who isn't. Now, yes, that's a harder mountain to climb. And yes, that's the objection you have to get over first. But I also think in today's marketplace, with the focus and recognition that actually having diverse thinkers and leaders in your organization is a good idea, that you've actually got the easiest conversation to have, which is what is the value of your diverse thinking in that organization? And I couch you, this is not, I am a diverse thinker, therefore you should let me do this. You need to understand what is the problem that needs to be solved and how does your kind of thinking, so Quinn, I'm going to give an example for you. So you are looking to pivot from a science and research background into the marketing communications world, only because I know what a lot of Marcom does. One of the problems that a marketing communications team needs to solve is research around the data, and understanding how to put a really great experiment together around a marketing campaign or a communications campaign. I'm pretty sure that most of your marketing, so Melissa, just as a question, do you have any science yeah. So actually, me, you said it as an example. So if you had somebody who came to you, so you are in marketing and communications, which is awesome.
Yes.
If someone came to you and said, I understand that in Marcom, one of the things that you are required to actually deliver are insights and data around the investments and where you are applying your dollars and applying the strategy. Have you ever had anybody who has an enormous amount of experience in creating scientific methods and research around data to actually get data that could not only give you insights, but actually is anchored in the scientific method? How do you feel about, would you go, oh, that's an interesting way of approaching this?
Absolutely. Especially the trend now of so much more data in all of marketing, because we can track all of that. And
you can track
so many
it.
Marketing people haven't caught up of the data that's available. So I think that would be a brilliant path.
Awesome. So Quinn, for you, when I was thinking about that, how do you get from science into marketing? Going from science to be the head of corporate communications is kind of a big jump. And unless you've got a whole extra side hustle that you've been doing in the background that I'm not aware of, it's going to be hard for people to see that. But I sat there and I was like, okay, in marketing communications, where would somebody who had experience in science and research be valuable? Here's the other gold star that you could potentially use is, in the world of marketing, there's this really crazy saying where they talk about advertising and they say, well, 50% of my advertising is right and 50% of my advertising is wrong. The problem is I don't know which 50%. And so having somebody who understands how to actually see how analytics and analysis could work out for somebody could be kind of helpful. The other major problem in the marketing communications world is your math correct? I've worked with lots of marketers. I think about a CMO I used to work for, and her hashtag was show me the pivot tables. And so she constantly was looking at the data, but having the extra validation that you're bringing potentially a scientific method to the whole thing brings a level of gravitas and seriousness to the whole thing. Now, this is just an option and is an example I shared with you about how you can take information that you know about the world that you want to be in and actually start to problem solve about what kind of problems do they need to solve, and specifically what your particular value is and what it is you're bringing to the table. So in Quinn's case, her diversity of thinking in the scientific method could actually be a bonus. Now, I say all of that because back to my statement before is, have you ever seen anyone non-traditional in this role? You do need to make sure that they want that diversity thing, because you can't force somebody to buy the diversity thinking if they don't already want it, which is why I don't start out with, oh, I'm diverse and I'm fantastic. You actually start out with really validating the problems that they're trying to solve. Number 4, as you can see, what skills and abilities do you wish the team had more of and are missing today? I know as a leader, I'm constantly thinking about where are the gaps in our organization of skill set. And that's where, especially when it's creating a role that doesn't exist before or a role that has a brand new title, this is where that sort of opportunity comes up a lot. I know you've heard a lot about my career and my adventures. One of the reasons why I haven't had a job description in 20 something years, I think it's even longer than that, I don't want to count that high, is because we have crafted a job for me in every single scenario. And that's happened because there's been a balance between what I knew and understood and brought to the table and what the whole was within the organization. And it's bridging that gap that allows you to pivot. And then last but not least, how does your manager measure success? So you'll remember I talked at the beginning about how this is you are literally packaging up a product to sell to other people. The question that then becomes really important is, how do you measure success of the product? So is it brilliant ideas? Is it being accurate? Is it bringing new things to the table? It could be all sorts of different ideas, but really understanding what the measure of success is within that organization is super important. So I'm going to do a quick pause. Any questions on the interview questions and how they're working? Just a quick check-in on everything. Does that all make sense? It all sounds really simple, super hard in practice, which is why, and I'm actually just going to pop this so I can remember what we put next. I'm going to come back on here. So I talked about this. This is your friend in that interview. Like, use this as an interview sheet as you go through, kind of list all of their needs, then come back and list your experience, because those are the things that you're going to need to connect. But these connection items are the things that you can use to re-educate your customers. You can use them in your LinkedIn profile. You could use it to write an article about why you would be great in that area, so that we all have the ability to be a publisher, as we've talked about before. You can use it in cover letters and all of those sorts of things. So last step on this is, before you do start going out there and marketing it, you have to go out and test your assumptions. Again, you should practice selling the product of you before you actually have to do it in front of somebody in an interview. So go back to those same first people you reached out to, or find new people and say, hey, I'm trying to move from, like Simone, I'll talk about, you said you wanted to move from events to really HR, correct? So I have some ideas for you there too. Like, I want to move from events to HR. I'd love to practice how I bridge my experience in events to providing value in an HR organization. And I am, by the way, about to make, just as I did for Quinn, I'm going to make a bunch of assumptions about what I think an HR team should want. And most HR teams have to own things like internal employee communication, engagement, productivity, learning and development, recruiting. I could go on, and a bunch of, and then yes, there's a bunch of very important legal and HR related activities. But my guess, Simone, is those aren't actually where you have spent your time. I know you've been studying in organizational development. And so I sit here and I say, you've got experience in the events world. And what that tells me about you is you understand really complicated logistics. You understand how to handle fire drills, because they happen. You understand how to create a cohesive look and feel around a theme that is throughout an event. My guess is you also understand that an event should have a certain amount of surprise and delight. So 4 awesome things about event planners. So I bridge this over to the HR world, and let's just, as an example, say like your entry in could be learning and development. Well, in learning and development, hands up those of you who love to go to those sexual harassment trainings that we are all required to go to if you work for a company of size.
Oh, see, clearly, Simone, they have better sexual harassment, because the sexual harassment training in the United States, it was filmed in, I don't know, like the 1980s, and you could probably take a nap and still pass the test at the end of it. It's kind of horrifying. But you think about learning and development, all learning and development is a big event. And there's going to be some sort of firefighting thing. You need to have a cohesive theme around how emotionally you need to change the story. You're going to have to work with talent, I'm guessing, in learning development. All of the things, right? I think I had 4 things, which I can't even remember now. But you have an opportunity to connect those, which could then move you into the organization. Now, could it immediately get you into the org dev organization? Maybe not. But my guess is if your next job gets you to start there, you can win. And that's what I want to give to all of you. Like, I think it's fantastic, just fantastic, that you have a long-term vision of who it is you want to be and where you want to go. If you've been on one of my calls before, you know that this is, I'm like, the clearer you are about who you are, what your value is, and what is it you want to do with it, where you want to go, the easier it is to ask people and the easier it is to say yes. When you're pivoting, sometimes you have to take kind of a step between to get to that place. Some of you might not, like, go for it and make the hard left turn. That happens when you've got really strong relationships and somebody's willing to take a risk on you. But if you don't, and you're just trying to get a job through the normal places, my recommendation is figure out how to get a job closer to the world that you want so that you can then move forward. And I'll tell you, I do this today. I have a vision of me in the future where I am on stage in a ball gown with a wand, looking like the Glinda the Good Witch. I think I actually shared it the other day, when I'm 80. And so the whole fairy godmother character, although I still kind of love her, was actually curated today as not an 80-year-old to help me get the stepping stone so that when I'm 80, the idea of me being on stage in a ball gown with a wand does not seem ridiculous at all. Not only in my audience's head, because they're like, well, Joanna is the fairy godmother. And I will also own in my own head, right? Because the thing that is super hard about pivoting is you are going to now have to move forward with what I call a whole backpack full of kind of irrational confidence. Because up until now, and I know a lot of you guys are already awesome as all hell, up until now, you have been known for, recognized, and celebrated for what it was you have done. You are basically starting to a certain extent at the first step. And as you know, like when I think about how to optimize your career, it's finding that balance of confidence and strength in who you are and what it is you do, and curiosity and excitement for what it is you are about to do. The good news for you guys is this curiosity and excitement about what you're about to do is off the chart, because you're about to blaze a new trail and it's all growth, all learning, all new awesome stuff. So off the chart on this area. You are not worried about this thing. Where you might get worried, where the little gremlins in our head might start to get a little crazy, is the, am I good enough? Can I do this? Do I have the qualifications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to remind you, and I don't think we have no 21-year-olds on the call today. No. When you were straight out of college or started to get your first job, you knew nothing then, and you turned out perfectly fine. You can do it again. Just a reminder, you've done it before, you can do it again. And so give yourself a bit of a break that this part of my mountain needs a little love and attention. And so if that means, Quinn, you need to wake up every morning and go, I am a marketing genius, say it out loud. Melissa, Melissa, I want to talk about you separately because you're a different thing. Like Trish, if you want to say, I know absolutely everything there is to know
about the nonprofit world to yourself in the mirror and or to random strangers, totally good, right?
Random strangers would be a lot of fun.
It would be. I think, well, you guys, well, I think I shared this on a call a couple of weeks ago. I'm a big believer, like that this thing up here can really mess with you on a regular basis. And, you know, as women especially, we are often taught, well, we are taught not to brag. It's bad manners. And now we have Simone, who's from Switzerland, who, let me just tell you, the whole of Europe, there is like a whole, you are not allowed to brag, color outside the lines thing. I'm British. I totally get it. It's time to break the rules. You've already broken the rules by joining us on this call. It's fantastic. But, you know, if you want to do something different, you do have to get out there and just tell yourself. And every day, although I can't at the moment because my husband's out of town for a couple of weeks, I will go tell my husband what genius thing I am smart about today. And he gets a different thing every day because as a CEO and founder of a company, you have to kind of live, breathe, eat, sleep, irrational confidence on a regular basis. Both Kylie and Kelly will tell you I'm a bit of a maniac about that as well with them. But you have to tell yourself, because if you don't believe in you, then somebody else can't believe in you. Because here's the thing, on that curiosity and confidence, my little mountain of awesome, here's the other thing. On the confidence side, like, do you understand your value? The person and the people who are engaging you and hiring you, collaborating with you, etc., they have to believe in that value too. They have to go, yeah, I see how that could be a valuable contribution to this organization. That's why that bridging language is so important when you're pivoting. And then also the confidence, so the curiosity about your future, the same way you need to be curious and excited about your future, your team, the people you're engaging with, your hiring manager need to recognize that potential. And for all of you, that potential one, while you've got confidence you've got curiosity and excitement out the wazoo, what you're having to do is actually getting somebody else to see your potential as you're going through, which comes to that last question. And I'm not sure I put it on the toolkit. What you can really do to validate whether your language has landed, whether you are doing the research or you are in the interview process, is ask them, do you see how my experience and what I have done in the past could be potentially beneficial to this organization in the future? And I use the word potentially specifically because that is the thing that they are looking for. Now, they're probably going to go, has anybody, I know we've got some hiring, has anybody ever asked you that question in an interview?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty clear, like, yes or no sort of situation. And nobody actually comes out and says no outright. If somebody stumbles there, that, by the way, is a bit of a red flag for you to go, you haven't actually clarified that.
Right.
And so if you get a stumbling answer to that question, then say, gosh, it doesn't sound like I've done a good enough job to really help you see how my potential could be valuable to you. Is there time to have a continued conversation about it? They give you a hard no there. I would recognize that maybe you aren't the right person for the role and actually move on, because your time is as important as theirs. And 150 applications later, you do want to make sure you're thinking about your time as you go through the process. So really important question to ask on all of this. What do I want to talk about? You know, Melissa, I was looking at your example from being consultant to in-house. I'm not sure that's, I mean, I know it's technically a pivot for you, but really you're just trying to find one customer that is 40 hours a week.
Yes, in my case, it's the depth that people are looking for. So I'm super excited that I've had the diverse experience of selling to, they're like, oh, do you do B2B? Yes. Do you do B2C? Yes. Do you do B2B2C? Yes. But all of them are small chunks. And so what you were saying about the potential of, when I have the opportunity to speak to somebody, I feel good about they get why somebody that has that diversity is helpful. But in the early stages on the recruiting part, they're looking for, do you have this many years doing this audience, this industry? And it's like, well, I have less on that, but I have a lot more depth in, I mean, obviously incredibly biased. I feel like that gives them a broader brain.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get you the first. I feel really good if I get through the funnel, the marketing funnel. It's getting the top part of the funnel.
I have a question for you. Do you use the expression broader brain?
No, that's a great, that's a good one to incorporate.
You know that I'm Joanna Jazz Hands when it comes to fun language, and there's nothing I love more than a bit of alliteration, because it, like, that's a very memorable phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Is actually, like, when you go out and teach your network and you say, look, I've decided to move from multiple customers to one customer. I think that's an easy bridge to where it is you're going.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing as an in-house person, right?
Yeah.
And because I've had such a diverse background of customers, I'm bringing a broader brain to the organization. I know I'd be like, hey, what are you talking about here? Because remember, you're trying to set up intrigue. The other thing, and this is for all of you guys, that's really helpful about Melissa's example, is she already knows what objection she needs to overcome. So not only teaching people how to bridge, but if you know what your objection is, you can head it off at the pass. And I'm going to break down, I'm going to use purses for a second. I think I've talked about this example, but I'm going to do it again. But, like, say for instance, we were all in Manhattan and COVID was gone, so we could actually be out in public and do stuff. I want you all to pretend for just a second that you have never heard of a Birkin bag. And we go to the Hermes store, and I go, oh my God, they're having a Birkin bag sale. We should go in and look at them because maybe you'll want to buy one. Whether you do or not is kind of irrelevant in this example. If we went in and you had no idea what a Birkin bag was, and you saw that even on sale, they were $25,000, you might look at me and go, oh my God, Joanna, have you lost your mind? There's like $25,000 is not a sale price for a purse, right? However, same scenario. If I, before we walked in the store, said, we need to go in this store, there's Birkin bags. Normally they're like $50,000 to $100,000, which I know sounds insane. But we should go see if there's something on sale. And, worst case scenario, you could have it for 6 months and then put it on eBay and make a profit. Let's go in and look. You'd then go in, and if you found a Birkin bag for $25,000, you'd be like, this is a total steal, right? So different way of actually put the objection of price up front in the conversation and primed you for this problem before it even became a problem. So in Melissa's example, while it, how I would say this, especially when you are teaching your network, while it may look like I've done marketing that is really broad across lots of industries and not so deep, what you're not aware of is because this broadness has required different deep for every area, it means that I bring both a broad brain and a deep brain to how I think about marketing in an organization. And what I'm missing is the opportunity to do that with one customer, because I want to see those two things come together. Do you see how that really, and it's teaching your network. And I'll come back
I like
to
that
this.
a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is the key for all of you guys, especially, you heard me rant last week about applicant tracking systems and how they don't really work very well for you and that keywords don't help. Networking, going out and finding people who are in your network and talking to them about what you're doing and how you're pivoting and re-educating them is incredibly important. And I'll actually share with you one of the tactics that I use to help continue to educate my network on what it is I'm doing, because most of them look at me like I'm crazy most of the time. But I, every Friday, have a list of 20 people, just 20, that I have specifically chosen, and they are around the globe, who are people that I know are fans of the work that I do. They have influence in their own marketplace and are people that I can learn from and have appreciated learning from me in the same process. And I send a single text to them every Friday with a, hey, happy Friday, just checking in to see, well, not even checking in. I say, hey, happy Friday, hope you have a great weekend, or something thereof. This week, I think I wrote, I hope you have, I hope shenanigans are scheduled for the weekend. And this text goes out. I will say maybe 50% of the people text me back. If they do, it's because they have news they want to share, because they know that I'm always curious to what they're up to. And we'll have a little bit of a back and forth, but it's something I do with consistency every Friday. And I do that on a regular basis. So a lot of them who've been on the list for a long time, and yes, I do replace once in a while, have gotten very used to their Friday texts. And if they don't get one, I might get if I'm a little late in the day, then I might get a text going like, where's the message today? And one would sit here and think, wow, this just happy Friday, I hope you have a great weekend, seems like a really small thing to do, but it has outsized impact in making real and personal connections. Because what it does mean is when I text in the middle of the week and say, hey, can we hop on the phone for 5 minutes because I want to test something with you, or I want to talk you through language, or whatever it is that I want to practice my own language with somebody, they are more than happy to hop on the phone. They're more than happy to take time for me. And because we've had this consistent thread of connection on a week over week basis, we don't spend 15 minutes having a whole conversation about, oh, are you okay with the fires or the hurricane or the COVID or the whatever the drama is of right now that we're doing. And we actually get down to business, which means that when I'm having these conversations, they're 15-minute conversations. It also means that there are 20 people around the world at any one time who are super clear with who I am, what is my value, what is it I'm doing. And only because we went through this exercise, we're about to do a group programming with the Upward organization, which is an executive women's organization here in the Bay Area. Although I think they actually have offices all over the country too, where we're partnering with them to put on the 8-week executive value adventure, which is the value adventure that you all see on my website, but we're going to have private conversations with just their members. They also get access to their membership application. By the way, if you're interested, it is open to anybody who would like to be a member and or go through the experience. Kylie, if we can grab that link and drop it in there, it'd be great for people to see. But a number of people in my network have gone through my programming here in the Bay Area. And so we asked them for what was their experience, what would they recommend to other people about their experience and what they were going through, and where they saw the value of the 8-week adventure. And while I knew intrinsically that we provide an amazing and valuable experience, it was incredibly validating to not only hear, and this is what's important for you guys, not only hear that they were very satisfied with the product, and that's the product of me, but they also knew how to talk about it. They said the words fairy godmother. They said the words potentialist. They talked about transformations. And that has happened because I have been slowly teaching my audience over time. And you haven't seen these folks on here. I've been teaching my audience and my network and the people who are out talking about me how to talk about me when I'm in the room that I'm not in. And as you all know, 5 years ago, I was the VP of Sales Operations and Ad Tech at Pandora, and I don't do any of that stuff now. And it took me a while to do the reteach, but it does happen if you're consistent over time. So just a phone and your texting can make magic things happen. Okay, gosh, I had a lot to say today, and we had examples. I want to keep an eye on the time. So actually, Kylie, are you ready to do the Wheel of Fortune and see who our winner is this week? No one, I'm very excited to get to talk to you. I think next week. She was our winner last time. Who is going to win the one-on-one this week?
All right, here we go.
Everybody. Wow. Simone, congratulations.
Wow.
It's an exciting day. I am very excited. I'm going to be talking to Europe. We will be sending you a note right after this call with instructions about what to expect, how to schedule it, how to factor our whole time zone situation and all of the goodies that are coming to it. So yay for you for coming. And FYI, I'm absolutely going to want to know how you found out about me because I'm completely fascinated. I have no idea, but you can do that on another day. So no, I'm excited. Also wanted to, especially for those, if any of the language around the confidence and how to ask people and asking of your network, I want to give you a heads up that the show on September 18th is specifically going to be how do you ask your network for help. We have an email template we're going to be sharing with folks that actually has the how do you craft an email if you just want to send an email to somebody to educate them. It's a super helpful event for asking your networks if you want to come back to that one as well. Also, thank you very much to Kelly, who's over there for me. Should do a bit of a hurrah because she went through the process of getting all of our YouTube videos edited. And so I'm super excited to announce we are starting to share all of the content from these live shows on the YouTube channel. Now, you don't get the prizes if you watch it there, and we aren't sharing the toolkits. You have to come to the live show to get those, but you can go back and rewatch videos on our YouTube channel. And so we'll be sharing the link there as well. And ladies, we should figure out how to share that on the website because I don't think we have it there for people. Oh, learning part on all of that. So we've got the YouTube channel and you can go back and watch other shows and see all sorts of information there. You can also see other live shows that we've done with other organizations. So if any of that is helpful for folks, that is out there. So before we wrap up and let it go, let me just throw out to the room. Kylie, did we get any questions in chat as I was going on at 90 miles an hour? Huh?
No questions so far.
No questions. Does anyone, so Marcella, you've been awfully quiet down there with your fabulous painting in the background, and you look like a new face here. Do you have any questions about what I was sharing today or anything we can help you with?
Not today. I mean, the funny part is you were talking about not having a job description, and I got a call from a recruiter the other day, did an interview, 3 interviews, and I got called into to do a final interview, and it doesn't have a job description, which I'm completely excited about.
That is exciting. Are they letting you actually craft the job description yourself?
So it's the CTO is hiring a vice president of application development is what he's calling it, although he really wants someone who can fill many, many IT hats at the same time. And so he asked me, what do I like to do? And I kind of turned it around and said, I can tell you what I don't like to do, but I love to do all these other things in IT. So I got called for another interview, so I'm pretty excited. But I'm excited to find out that there's other people that don't have job descriptions.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, I'm a bit of a believer that none of us really should have job descriptions. I mean, the job description is as helpful in the hiring recruiting process as the resume is. It's one of those things that I think people feel is required. And I just sit here and I go, the job description, create, unless it's a role that you've been hiring for over and over and over again over time, like it's a role you've been hiring for forever, then I think they're appropriate and they're probably right. But most job descriptions, I think they're kind of guessing not only what it is they want, but what are the criteria they need to actually make that role happen. And it's in that guessing that the do you fit the bill kind of gets a little bit muddy. You know, I see probably once a week somebody who's in the world of software engineering make fun of a job description that says, oh, you need to have, you know, five years of experience in whatever the special piece of code that they need to have experience in. And the software engineer will say, well, I was the person who invented it and I've only got 2 years of experience. And so these people are crazy. And so there's sometimes a bit of a mismatch on that. And what's missing, I think, in a job description is that whole portion of the future and what is the problem that needs to be solved. And so, you know, a pro tip on that one as well, like it sounds like, Marcella, you've been having that a bit of that conversation of like, what is actually the problem that the CTO needs solving, which is fantastic and the way to go. But having a conversation with hiring managers in your industry, or in your case, because you're all pivoting, not in your industry, and actually saying, like, what are the problems that need to get solved? Because then you can figure out how the solution of you, the product of you, can actually solve those problems. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what people need from you, right? Anybody else before I let you go? No, awesome. Well, so accountability check. How many of you are going to do the text 20 people exercise? How many are going to do text 10? 2 of you. Awesome. 3. Commitments across the board. It's super fun, by the way. It's super fun. I even did videos to everybody last week, which was, I did it in my full costume. They got sparkles. So who else is going to find 2 people to interview who are in their industry? Everybody. Awesome. Almost everybody. Who learned a new thing today that kind of blew their heads off? Yay. Last question before I let you go. What else would you like to see? I'd love to hear from you about, is there any topic you would like us to talk about? So if you've got an idea right now, shout out.
So Joanna, I would like to hear from you, how do you cope a crisis, which is not true crisis, but when you receive a criticism, a very honest and, you know, very direct criticism, how do you, with the intention help you to grow, but it's really hard. How do you handle that criticism and get over with it? And
God, that's such a good topic. We are totally going to do a show on that. Ladies, can we help figure out how to get that in there? FYI pro tip on that one, I think the word feedback needs to be retired. I think it needs to be retired. I don't think it actually helps anybody. I got a whole thing there. So yes, we can have a show about that. Any other shows? Well, I know you'll see an email come out from the team after the show, which gives you, if you think of something later today, we'll have not only links to the next event and what is the follow-up, but also an opportunity to fill in a quick survey about how we're doing here. Was this valuable? What are you looking for? All of the good stuff, because we do these every week for you guys so that you can continue to maximize your career adventure and have the blast that many of us are having. So have an awesome weekend. I hope to see many of you again next week, and have a good one. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
thank you. Bye.
Ultimately, we're here to help you figure out how to teach other people who the future you is so that you can be you in the future. Because the clearer you are about who you are, what you want, and teach other people why that's awesome, the more likely you get to be you. I know, it's a bit of a circle. I'm Joanna, your Potentialist and Fairy Godmother, and I wish you the very best. Thanks for coming.